The first hot war of the Cold War is the Korean War. Actually, it's a Korean conflict, and I'll explain in just a second. North Korea, backed by the Soviets and using Soviet military equipment, invaded South Korea in 1950. Now, remember the American containment policy. The containment policy said that we're going to prevent the spread of communism everywhere because the domino theory. If one country falls, they'll all fall. So if South Korea were to fall to North Korea and become communist, that might lead other countries in the area to destabilize, leading to a cascading effect of communism throughout the world. So Truman, not wanting this to be a United States only action, gets the United Nations to, I forget the exact terminology of it, condemn this action and lead a coalition army to push back that North Korean invasion. That army is going to be led by the United States, like the majority of the weaponry and the soldiers are going to be United States, but it is going to be a worldwide affair to try to push the Koreans back, the North Koreans back into their territory. The United Nations forces are going to be incredibly successful. At one point, and you can see it here, the North Koreans had gotten all the way down to almost kicking the South Koreans all the way off of the peninsula. But the United Nations forces are going to be able to push the North Koreans not only back to their original border, but almost all the way into China, which is the northern border of Korea. That's too successful because then the Chinese threatened to intervene, right? And the Chinese had an incredibly large military coming off of years of civil wars, so they are veteran status here. So that success getting all the way up to the North Korean northern border is going to backfire. And eventually what happens is the original border about halfway down the Korean peninsula is going to be set up as a ceasefire boundary. In 1951, rather than risk all-out war with the Chinese communists, there's a ceasefire. Fighting stops sporadically. There'll be some issues, but there's a 2-year negotiation that is going to end under the Eisenhower administration that eventually sets the post-war boundary as basically the pre-war boundary. So they did all that fighting. 4 years of fighting and negotiations is going to basically take the United States and the United Nations and Korea back to where it started. But that's a victory for the containment policy. Communism has not expanded. So therefore, the pre-war boundaries are reestablished. Containment is a success. The United States is going to see this as a commitment in Southeast Asia now too. And that's going to be a problem because that's going to lead to us, the United States, supporting the French in Indochina. When the French lose, that's going to mean the United States is going to need to step in places like Vietnam. 33,000 Americans are going to die as a result of the Korean War. 2 million South Korean casualties, 3 million North Korean, Chinese combined casualties. It's a brutal war, and we see it as a victory for containment.